Marketer of the Day, episode 712. Get attention from viral videos with Adam Lundquist. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with Adam Lundquist from nerdsdoitbetter.com. And Adam is a Harvard-educated agency owner. He's a former radio shock jock from Santa Barbara Radio. And if you do some digging, if you look into Adam's history, he was responsible for one of the very first viral videos on YouTube, so we'll unpack some of that. He has all sorts of accomplishments. He is a featured author in Search Engine Journal, PPC Hero, WordStream. His company is called Nerds Do It Better, and they consistently deliver paid search campaigns utilizing advanced statistical analysis that he developed at Harvard. So we are going to talk about how Adam and his team can remove inefficiencies in your marketing, how they can generate more customers for you in a consistent basis and in a cost-effective way. Ticks all the boxes. Adam, glad to be talking to you.
Same here. I couldn't have said it better if I wrote it myself.
Cool. Yeah, and that's a little inside joke there. So yeah, like right off the bat, hearing about you reading your bio, so you are responsible for one of these first viral videos on YouTube. So can you tell us about that? Can you tell us like what it's called, where to find it, what happened there?
Yeah, definitely. So, growing up, I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and we didn't have like movie stars there. And it was before like Ben Affleck and stuff. You kind of had two options if you wanted to do something kind of big. You either did radio or sports, and so sports wasn't going to happen for me. Let's just put it that way. So I knew I wanted to be a radio person. So I moved to Santa Barbara and eventually got my own morning show. And this was around like 2006 or 2007 when this part of the story is taking place. So I had a morning show in the morning, like a shock jock, and I could kind of see the writing on the wall that radio was going to go down because radio is ad supported, right? So the only reason you can listen to your favorite shows are because the ads are paying for them. And as a side note, for millennials, a radio is what we used to listen to hear music, but it doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. But around that time, YouTube was starting. So it was very easy for me to get whoever I wanted on the show because in Santa Barbara, all the celebrities came through. We had like Hillary Clinton on, Clint Eastwood. It was just relatively easy for me to get them. And I decided to do a video interview to see what would happen. So I went down to the local gym, like the local sports gym. And it's where the LA Clippers did their summer practice. So the Clippers did it in City College. The Lakers did it at UCSB. So you were just all around sports people. And I did an interview with this guy, Sam Cassell, who at the time was a pretty big basketball player, but more importantly was known for mainly looking like an alien. So I asked him a bunch of questions, basically all regarding him looking like an alien. And you can imagine how that interview went very well. And the next day I posted on YouTube and literally nothing happened. Nothing. I left it there for a week or two. And I was just like, oh, well, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. So I started learning and seeing like, what could I do to get more video views on this video? So I started to reach out to blogs that I liked at the time. I think Barstool Sports was pretty big. Sports Illustrated was pretty big. I guess probably still is. And seeing what it was that got people to actually put my video on their blog. Because if you just say, hey, I got a video, we put it on a blog, like people are going to be like, no. But if you instead say, hey, look, this is good for your audience, this is different, this is outrageous, like whatever. I started to learn and just like basically stumbled into A/B testing. So I would be testing headline versus headline just to see what kind of got reactions. And the video, it blew up. It was Sports Illustrated's number 7 viral video of all time. It got me on best damn sports show, best week ever, all sorts of stuff. And that was kind of how I got into the whole like, whoa, the internet's amazing thing. It was just so much better and so much more profitable than radio was. And then when I left radio, we got fired on Friday the 13th. I got hired to run 6 other radio stations' internet presence and just kind of took off from there.
Nice. Well, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, and one thing that I'm hearing from you is that you seem like a pretty curious person, right? That you're not just the kind of person to keep on going through the motions, and even if the writing's on the wall and things like radio might be going down here and there, you're not just one to sit and wait for things to happen to you. You go out and see what you can do, and then I'm also hearing kind of like that logical side there, where you say, well, you kind of did like the A/B testing sort of thing, right? Like you said, let me try sending out these cold emails with this headline or that headline just to sort of see what happens. And then also, I think a really important lesson in here is that you're not doing it on your own, right? You're involving other people. You reached out to these celebrities who were going through town to have on your show. You were trying to get more views. You weren't just playing around with ads or trying to tweak the system. You were actually reaching out to people who already had audiences, so that way you can just kind of tap into their network, tap into their traffic, which, I mean, these are all kind of marketing fundamentals, really simple things here, but I mean, they're super important, right? That we need to be curious, and instead of just kind of hammering away at the content or the interviews, look for what the goal is, right? Look for what the views are, and then involve other people. So, I mean, I love the story. And I mean, I think there's all kinds of little fun nuggets people can get out of this.
Yeah, people do like it. And one thing that I think is probably the most valuable thing I'll say on the show is that the internet isn't magic. I thought it was. I was like, I'll just put this up on YouTube and it'll go viral. Definitely. There is so much content, so many ads, so many things that I kind of run into every day where people are like, hey, if I put up this web page, is it going to be the next eBay? Probably not. Definitely not if you don't work at it. So a lot of what I try to do with people is think about things systematically in an organized kind of way. That's really important for me and for anyone. Like, same, not just like getting views. I mean, even to the point where, what a lot of what I do is generate leads for people. You still have to close the leads. Like the nature of it is like, yes, the internet's amazing. It can scale. You can target people very, really minutely, granularly, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, it's still the real world. You still have to close the leads. You still have to close the sales. And, it's still business.
Yeah, and even like, going back to the marketing fundamentals again, it's like my mind was blown a little bit when someone said, like, think about the path someone takes to get to your website. And it seems like a really dumb moment, but it's easy to get caught up in, well, let me just put up web pages and to think, well, someone had this specific problem. Someone, went to this Google search. Someone checked out these YouTube videos. Maybe they saw your ad or maybe some affiliate link to something. But I mean, that's just one of those things that kind of like you're saying, the internet is not magic. People still exist. It's just there's a lot of noise, a lot of competition. And so maybe we need to tap into that. So kind of speaking to like you're saying here that you help businesses get leads. Do you have any fun, like kind of client stories that to help us wrap our heads around this? Like, is there any specific client or business that you've worked with at some point where they came to you and they said, I need some leads, and you kind of developed a plan and implemented some stuff? Any fun case studies like that come to mind?
Yeah, so a really good thing to think about is how does someone become a lead? First, they have to kind of become comfortable with you. So my favorite kind of funnel is, I guess I'll call it a multi-step funnel, where the first step is either they download an ebook or they take a quiz, and then the next step is they get a consultation, because that's what most of my clients want, whether it's a lawyer, hormonal therapy doctor, whatever. And the reason that works so well is because of something called compliance psychology. So a good real world example, because I do like to take this in the real world, is I was in Santa Barbara recently celebrating my wife's birthday. And there are those guys in the street with the clipboards, right? They're annoying, so I don't want to be confused with them. But they come up to you and they say, hey, like, do you care about the environment? So that's step one, is you just saying, yeah. You're like, yeah, like, who doesn't care about the environment? And then they say, hey, will you sign this? Will you sign this just to basically petition it? So you sign it. And then the next step is always, will you give money? Now, I don't, but people do. And it's because they've already said yes. It's already because they've signed the box. And if they had just come up to you and said, hey, we give money for the environment, your answer is almost 100% always going to be no. So it's about taking those little steps towards the big yes, or what I call the core offer. So that's one way to do it. So just to give you a real world example of that, let's see, I have a hormonal therapy doctor. We're running a quiz that's basically is it hormones or adrenal fatigue? And then you obviously would never say it is or it isn't because you're going to lose your medical license pretty fast if you do that. But you say, you're at high risk, low risk. So they've taken the quiz, and the first question is always a question. It's just called a grease the wheel question, where they just say if they're a man or a woman, even though behind the scenes we know because we target men and women differently on Facebook. And then in the end, you offer them a consult. So if you would just offer them the consult, very unlikely, too high a threat level for them to come in at. But by breaking things into sequential little steps, one, it's better for the person, so you're more likely to get that initial lead. Two, it's better for optimization. So you might see, all right, well, people are, whatever, falling off on question 3. That's too personal a question. We're not doing that. Or you might see that your ebook sucks, but your consultations are good. So there's all the little steps to break it into.
I love it. And there's like, it goes back to that Robert Cialdini stuff, right? The commitment and consistency. Sometimes we're taking too big of a leap. Sometimes we're asking for too much from people. And it's like that whole story of like, well, if you ask, can we put a huge billboard on your front lawn? They might say no, but then you change it to, can we put a little sign on your front yard? Maybe they say yes to that. And then when you upgrade to the bigger sign, they say, well, some percentage actually took that whole path when otherwise they wouldn't have made that huge leap there. And so I like some of these little marketing insights here where you say, well, we can have a little downloadable or have a quiz and maybe ask them a very simple question like, are you man or woman, that you might already know, but just to, like you said, get the wheels greased, right? Get the wheels moving. So that way, they kind of get that forward momentum, and maybe they'll answer the next easy little question. And then what's also really great about what you said there with like that quiz example is that you can find the bottleneck, right? Whereas if you had like a big long form with 12 things to fill in and no one was filling it out, you'd say, well, if it's not converting, there could be a million reasons why. But if you break up, for example, like this quiz thing, like you can say, well, for some reason, they're getting to question 3 and then stopping. So, I mean, isn't it amazing, all of these kind of like analysis tools or all of these things that we can do to like scientifically kind of adjust and fix things? Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, another thing that's really powerful about quizzes is the sales call you have after them. So you're a doctor, you have all this information, you say, hey, look, it says here that you, you're starting fights with your husband because you're tired all the time. How does that make you feel? And that's a great place to start. Whereas if you're just coming in cold from an email, you're like, says here, this is your email. Where are we going to go from here? So I really recommend quizzes and interactive tools. They seem to work a lot better. And that's intuitive, right? Like if someone says, hey, here's an ebook, 12 things you're doing wrong in marketing, you're like, okay. But if it's a quiz that's like, hey, fill out this quiz and find out the one thing you're doing wrong in your marketing based on your answers, and we'll tell you how to fix it. That's a much more magnetic offer.
Yeah, I agree. And then, or even like with some of these quizzes where there's branching, right? Like I mean, even when you just said that, well, 12 things you're doing wrong in your marketing, I'm thinking, well, I don't want someone to tell me 12 things that I'm doing wrong, or I don't want to have this to-do list of 12 things to fix. But if it was like, which of these 3 things do you want? Do you want like more traffic or like more cash flow or a bigger list? And then if I chose that answer and it branched off into something more specific, it's like it kind of has the same result, but then I only focus on that little laser focus right there that I'm looking for. So yeah, it's like with the quizzes, there's all kinds of cool like just possibilities there. And so when you say things like, you had that example there of there's the hormone doctor and you're asking for things like fights with your husband. So like, where do those sorts of like emotional questions come from? Is it a matter of seeing what's out there, or asking that doctor client, or just reading articles? Or is it like kind of a trial and error process? Like, how do you figure out those like exact sort of quiz questions to ask?
So for the doctor, when I had the doctors write it, I mean, I said I want the first 2 questions to basically be, are you a man or a woman? And then what age are you, to get the wheels rolling or wheels turning? But then the actual questions themselves, I mean, I want the quiz to actually be valuable, and I am not a doctor. So I have them do it. Or if it's a client who's less medical or something like that, I can help them write it. I mean, the key to a good quiz is basically keeping your answers consistent. So it's usually always, sometimes never, with the 3 answers. and then having short, easily readable questions that are about 7 to 9. I found anything under 7, people are like, there's a scam. Anything over 9, people are like, I'm not taking the time to do this. And yeah, that's the basic gist of writing a good quiz.
Okay, cool. So it's like it seems kind of fun how there's like the art and the science, right? There's the best practices, the guidelines, but then we can have a lot of fun and be creative in the questions and the answers we create if we kind of keep in those bounds of say like 7 or 9 questions or so, 3 multiple choice answers, but then kind of come up with whatever we want. So that gives us a good starting point, a good idea for what to do, but then we can kind of play around with it. And so we kind of talked a little bit so far about some fun ideas, some marketing fundamentals, some things to do, but then it's also fun to talk about what not to do, or talk about some of the disaster stories. So in all of your travels and dealing with some of these businesses and digital marketing, leads, quizzes, all this fun stuff, have you been seeing a common mistake or something that we could all easily pick up on and correct or avoid? Anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. Well, two things. So one, only going for marketing metrics. So if you're just going after clicks, or really even just going after just the amount of leads, you're not putting yourself in a good position. You want to, yeah, it does feel good to get a lot of leads. I'll be the first to say that. But if they're not quality leads, if you're a marketing agency, you're gonna have a lot of churn. And if you're the person getting them, you're just gonna be blasting through these terrible, terrible sales calls. So a good way to look at that is I have everything in a spreadsheet. It comes in through this program called Zapier. It just pulls in, unmouse to Zapier. I don't get any cut of any of these. I always just recommend what I actually use. And then the clients actually fill out, is this a good or bad lead? Some you can't do that with, like my lawyers. Like I don't want to know the case stuff. They have ethical obligations with that. But the other ones, like it really helps. So sometimes you'll see, because I'm network agnostic. I don't really care. But for AdWords, like I'll know what search query it was, and maybe just as an example, I don't know, expensive shoes near me provides a much better search than pricey shoes near me, just as a total example. Then you'd want to bid more on that. And then the other big mistake I see people doing is talking more about themselves. Is it a you-centered message or a them-centered message? And actually, someone just sent me their resume today, and I had to tell them about this, try to give them a little tough love, but do it nicely because I want them to get a job at some point. But if everything's me, 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 well, like who cares? Like, it should be like, what can I do for you? The most important person in the world is you. And that's not like a bumper sticker. That's really how people feel. And I get it. Like you go to a web page and someone's like, I'm awesome and I make all these things. And you're like, I don't care. What can you do for me? So you want you focused messages, marketing messages, as well as tracking the data as close as you can to actual sales and revenue and return on ad spend.
Fantastic. And I'm hearing that you're saying, like, track the data, but don't just charge ahead, right? Don't just see, and you said this a few times, don't just go for views, don't just go for clicks. That is an important ingredient in what you're trying to accomplish. But if you're getting bad leads, or if you're getting, non-buying leads, or if you're getting something that's not the right fit, then what's the point? And then also you mentioned in there Zapier, which is like, it used to be kind of a geeky thing, right? To mention Zapier. And now it's one of those things where like every marketer should at least know about this concept. And a lot of people do. But in this day and age with all sorts of apps and hosted platforms and systems, I mean, Zapier is one of the most magical things, as you and I both know, where you can have some kind of a quiz service or platform, and it can hook into whatever other system that you have. I mean, there's always that discussion with, Mark Zuckerberg has your data and your data is so valuable, or our customer data is so valuable. And in this day and age where people can just answer some questions and you can lead score them and hook it up into your system, it's really easy to get carried away and make it fancy. But it is amazing how someone can get on your list, or you can put someone in a queue to make a phone call and already go into that phone call knowing about some of their answer to these quiz questions. So, I mean, just like you said, a little shout out to Zapier. That is a really crucial thing. And then finally, as you said, that whole concept of making it about then, again, marketing fundamentals, but easy to forget, easy to miss if you just either don't know what you're doing or forget, right? And it's kind of awkward, isn't it? It's like, it's easy to think, well, I'm the most important thing because I've never seen the world through someone else's eyes. I only see it through me, but we kind of have to use our imagination a little bit and think someone has a problem. Someone took some kind of path to get to our site. They're short on time. They're here for a reason. Let's make it about them because as you've kind of said at the beginning here, where radio went away and now there's, satellite radio, podcasting, YouTube. Things are so scattered now. Things are so competitive. If we're not quick about solving their problems, having them take the quiz, make it easy, make it clear, then they're going to go somewhere else. So these are all really important things that we need to keep in mind. And I want to make sure that people know all about you and your website and your agency and the things that you can do for them, right? In the spirit of making it about them. So can we unpack that a little bit? Can you tell people here what it is that you do, what problem that you can solve for them in a timely manner, and where the heck should we go to take the next step and find out more about you?
Sure. So you can find us on nerdsdoitbetter.com. What we do is business focused, mainly lead generation. But we do have some e-com clients if you're right for it. And we do the strategy, the funnel building, and the actual ad management. And really out of the three of those, I'd say the strategy is the most important. Like you could get a guy for like whatever, $9 an hour off Elance, but you're going to get a guy for $9 an hour off Elance, and that's exactly what you're going to get. Having the right strategy makes just the world of difference. Like everything else is kind of replaceable, but really in a business, the unique selling proposition is kind of like yourself. Like what can you actually bring that no one else can? And what we bring is the strategy and the statistical analysis that is rigorous, to say the least. And, it ends up providing a nice, sustainable flow of clients. And also I help you out if you have sales problems, because I get it. Like I say this to lawyers all the time. Like they probably didn't teach you sales in law school. Like why would they? But also you're a business, so you need to get clients. So it's just about basically getting the fundamental is we get you more clients online, and then the specifics of it are you don't really have to worry about it. We do it ethically. None of my lawyers get banned because that is something that happens. I've seen people run remarketing ads, which are ads that follow you for bankruptcy or divorce lawyers. Like it's a pretty good way to get disbarred if a wife sees a divorce law ad following them around, and then you got to be careful with this stuff, especially with these high touch kind of things that are very regulated.
Right. And it's like you sometimes need to go after people over the long term or aggressively, but then also walk that fine line of like you said, don't let the wife see the divorce ads. So yeah, like this has been like a super great conversation, and you've given us a lot to think about. And I imagine also that kind of like you said, lawyers or doctors or whatever industry they're in, they weren't taught this stuff. They weren't taught AdWords. They weren't taught remarketing. They weren't taught quizzes. So why not focus on what you do, what your industry is, and let Adam and his team do their thing? And it's kind of like that show Columbo, where he was a cop, but he was kind of a little bit of a bumbling idiot, but he always caught the murderer because this is his 200th time investigating a murder. This is all he does. And yet the person who committed the murder, this is their first time. So of course they're out of their element no matter how smart they are. So why not kind of consider that analogy that you can do what you do great every single day. And now you don't have to scramble and learn all this lead digital marketing stuff. Just let Adam and his team do his thing. Plus there's that added benefit of maybe they've serviced a client similar to you. Maybe they've already gone through the trial and error. Plus they kind of have that new, fresh perspective from the outside looking in. Maybe they have some new ideas and new strategies for you and your team and your company moving forward. So the place to go is nerdsdoitbetter.com. And before we sign off here, do you have any final parting words of wisdom for people here, Adam?
Final parting words of wisdom? Yeah, just always be learning.
All right. Always be learning. Well, we'll keep that in mind. We'll embroider that, put it on a pillow, put it on a t-shirt or something like that. And in the meantime, go to nerdsdoitbetter.com and take the next step in your business, because you know that you need to be taking your leads seriously and your quizzes. And the people aren't just going to find you, especially in this day and age. So why not be proactive and take some action and go to nerdsdoitbetter.com, and we'll see you there. And thank you very much. Check out the latest episodes of our podcast on the web at marketeroftheday.com, and subscribe to us on iTunes at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes, or search the phrase Robert Plank in your iTunes app to find us there.